welcome to this week's MTD live question time, where you at home have the opportunity to ask our guests the questions that you may have. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, and I have the pleasure to be joined by Martyn and Ashley Page from Hydrafeed UK. Welcome, gents.
Thank you, Gio.
Thank you.
How are you been?
Yeah, it's been okay. It's a bit it's very surreal, but we're okay. We're good. We're all right. We're keeping enough staff on to be able to still offer our services as and when they're required, so we can build, deliver, install. Subcontract side of it the same. So it's okay, but we're ready for a little bit of normality now.
No, brilliant. Ashley, how are you finding things?
Yeah, as Martyn says, we're definitely ready for more normality now. But I think things that are keeping us sane almost are being able to come to work, and we're still busy enough. So yes, we're getting there.
Well, Martyn, I'm going to start with you. I want to kind of introduce you really first, Martyn. Martyn, you're a true ambassador for the automation industry, really. You've been in it for over 40 years. You're the managing director of Hydrafeed UK. So firstly, tell our audience that may be unfamiliar with Hydrafeed a little bit about your company, about yourself, and about the kind of solutions that your products can offer.
Okay. I'm not going to bore too many people about myself, Gio. I've been in engineering all of my working life. Trained as a tool maker from 15. I've been with Hydrafeed almost 40 years. We were always a UK manufacturer. We manufactured abrasive belt machines, barrel finishing machines, 5C collet clothes, and we still do some of those, and they still move for us. However, what we have done with the new blood that's in the company, we have grown and moved with the manufacturing sector. As machine tools have grown from single spindle, twin axis machines to twin spindled, multi-purpose machines, we like to think that our business and our company have moved with them and have sufficient product here to complement that range of equipment. Short magazine feeds, we started many years ago with a pneumatically fed feed master. Then we moved to hydraulics, which was a single tube, and then we went to short magazine bar feed. Now we can offer, albeit an offshored model, it's a very long magazine bar feed. We've developed and built unloading products so that we can withdraw shafts through twin spindled machines. Ashley and his team within the organisation have built a very good base to provide the robots from Belgium throughout the UK. So we have kind of metamorphosized over the years. We've remained our focus on the machine tool sector as an automation company for that sector, be it milling, turning, long bars, short bars, unloading, and we hope to continue to be doing that for many years.
Thanks, Martyn. Martyn, we'll be discussing all of your products and solutions in a more technical aspect through this show. And if you're watching at home, please don't hesitate to ask Martyn or Ashley any questions that you may have. Now, Ashley, you're the sales director for Hydrafeed UK. You've obviously followed in your father's footsteps. You're an advocate for automation, and you're responsible for pushing the RoboJob technology and automated solutions. So again, we're going to be discussing all of the products technically later on in the show. But my main question to you, Ashley, my first question to you is, what's it like working with your dad?
It has its moments, but it's mostly it's good, because we can speak our mind. It's like, I'm sure there's a lot of businesses out there, subcontractors in particular, that are family businesses. So it definitely, you can say what you want, and generally we're able to get things done a lot quicker because of that. So yeah, it's good. I enjoy it.
Exactly. I mean, I had the pleasure, me and Paul had the pleasure to come to Belgium with you two guys, and we did have a real good time. It has to be said, and you two do seem like you've got a fantastic working relationship. In regards to RoboJob, Ashley, when did you introduce RoboJob to the UK market, and what kind of solutions does it offer to the people that may be unaware of it?
So the introduction to the product was possibly sort of 4 or 5 years ago now. So that it's been a big learning curve for all of us. So we took it on early. We sent our engineers on as many robotics courses as possible, because we want to. The aim is to grow our own as well within the company. So we've certainly grown a long way since we've taken the agency on. So the pickup has become, this past couple of years, we've seen more and more inquiries and things like that. So you can see that the industry is coming round to the idea of robotics and automation. But sometimes robotics does get hit with a bit of a stigma, the word robot, which is losing, and affects. I wouldn't say people are scared of it, but it's more of a, you think of a robot, you think of an automotive industry where they're making one part in a day, and they're making as many parts as possible. That just isn't the case anymore.
Yeah, I mean, prior to you introducing the RoboJob, the bar feeders were predominantly just for lathes. So now with the addition of the RoboJob, you can also automate the milling machines. Now, my first question to you, Martyn, really is that, have you seen an increase in demand and necessity for automation during this lockdown period? And do you believe that this necessity and increased demand will need to continue even after the lockdown is loosened effectively, which there's talk of from the government at the minute?
There's some big questions there. Firstly, let's deal with the first one, Gio. I'm going to do nothing else other than talk openly and honestly to you and everybody else that's listening. We have brought back two of our robot installation engineers today to install 2 different systems at 2 different customers. So in answer to your question, it's encouraging that the orders that we had on our books pre-COVID-19 outbreak, those customers have seen the importance of their investment and have been brave enough to carry on with them. So we are installing, as of today, there are 2 installations that are going ahead. We do have other orders on our books, more orders than we've had on our books for some time. And touch wood, nobody has cancelled those. We have had to be a little bit innovative with some of the deposits that we've had from customers, but we're happy to do that. We'll support them as much as we can. So in answer to your question, your first part of your question, yes, we've seen an increase. As you know, our sector was all ready for Mac. We knew full well that after Mac, we would be having a very, very busy time indeed, as did all of those people that out there that had stocked up their shelves with their machine tools and such like. Going forward, I think it will be even more important for UK manufacturers to invest in automation. I mean, even if you just think about the basics, it will deliver a competitive advantage for companies and enhance their productivity. Our robots will deliver consistent and reliable products, as Ashley's quite adept at saying, on a high mix, low volume. It will minimise the risks to workers. It will help improve the skill level of the UK engineering sector by releasing those staff that would ordinarily be stood in front of a machine, loading it to be trained to do more inventive work within the organisation. So in answer to the second part of your question, yes, it's going to be very, very important for the UK to invest in automation. And I do firmly believe that any government which is in place after this lockdown will hopefully see that the importance of manufacturing has become paramount at the moment. It is critical. Look at the way we have all come together the engineers have all come together to produce parts for the respirator. Us engineers, whether or not we are subbies, competitors, whatever we all, because we're in this industry, we have that can-do attitude. And that can-do attitude has really, really shone through to be able to produce parts for the respirators. And I do firmly believe that some critical industries will have to be reshored to the UK. And as such, there will be wonderful opportunities for companies that manufacture here in the UK, as long as they're prepared to invest in automation to do that, to keep themselves competitive with the rest of the world. That's just my suggestion. I may be miles off, but that's what I'm hoping.
No, thanks for the insight, Martyn, and thank you very much for giving us and the audience your opinion. It's great news that you're busy and you seem to be booking the trend. Now, we've had a live question come in. I'm going to ask that question in a minute, but firstly, before I get onto the live question, I just want to ask your opinion, Ashley, on this subject. Why do you believe that the necessity for automation is actually increasing during the lockdown? If you had to pick 2 or 3 reasons, I have my own opinion, but what's your opinion on this, Ashley?
Well, automation is always being forced through market changes. So our industry isn't what it was 10 or 15 years ago, and the continuing changes that we see are forcing the issues, as you said, for the automation to be successful as well. So at the moment, the obvious is that it's bodies on the shop floor fundamentally, and skilled labour is what we're seeing a bit of a lack of at the moment in the UK. To be a little bit blunt with it, but the market changes, the biggest market changes that we see going forward are sort of modern supply chains where people don't want quite as much stock. Globalisation, so our competitors aren't just somebody down the road anymore. They are effectively European. They're global competitors for the same parts that you're making. And there's lots of things where we see in the UK our typical work, as Martyn mentioned, is high mix, low volume. And now low volume can still be your hundreds of and thousands of, but it's how do you effectively manufacture those in the most efficient.
We've definitely seen signs of the people that are continuing to be manufacturing these ventilator parts, as an example, amongst other parts that are still continuing to be manufactured. Let's not forget them. There definitely seems to be signs that these people are all the people that are automating and running 24/7, making these parts as fast as possible, unmanned as well is a big issue at the minute, doing it unmanned. Now, we have a live question that's come in from Prince Gajara on YouTube. Now, it says, what is Industry 5? But I'm guessing she means Industry 4.0 in CNC technology. I'm going to throw that one to you, Martyn.
Oh, Geo, man alive. Well, I guess if the 4.0 from, I can only speak on our own products. As Ashley touched on earlier, the industry and the sector that we're working in now is totally different from 10 years ago, and it's driven that to automation. Now, that automation, from our point of view, the industry, the products that we are putting in can be monitored from home. There's apps that you can look at the performance of a particular piece of equipment working. We can monitor the workings of that equipment, motors and such, like servo motors within it. So it gives us and it gives our customers the opportunity to view their machine tools working from home on a live feed camera, as we do here. We have it here on our own. So the technology is such that it's more conversational for us. It makes it easier to use. It makes it more open for our customers to be able to use it and get more from it and do more preventative maintenance, not to have to worry about the machine breaking down and then repairing it. It allows our customers to be more proactive. So I know I'm talking generically and to some extent I'm way out of my depth on this, but the 4.0 to us allows our customers to be able to view their machines working, have the confidence that they're working, and if they're not, to be able to do something about it immediately and to contact us. It helps our customers to save money. For instance, even on our short bar feeds now, we send a short magazine bar feed out. We can view the screen of that short magazine bar feed from here in Milton Keynes. We can advise that customer what to do without the cost of having them to incur the cost of a service engineer to visit. So that's how I see the sector going with the new technology. I'd like to just go back to a point that Ashley made about globalisation and the importance of it. I don't disagree with him, but I see globalisation to some extent becoming unwound a little bit. And again, I do believe that this will be a great opportunity for automation for the UK, because I think what we're all seeing here is, hopefully after this period is over, there will be an emphasis upon self-sufficiency, because it's become very apparent how reliant individual nations are on other nations to supply. Look at the PPE, for example, and we can apply that same ruling to some of our more critical sectors: military, shipping, aerospace. And I do firmly believe that there will be a focus on the UK focusing on its self-sufficiency again, and I do think that there will be a boom in the investment of machine tools here and associated automation equipment to it. I'm not saying that globalisation will disappear completely, but I do believe that there will be a review of it in some areas.
I think that's a really valid point. It's something that we'll be definitely discussing later on in the show, Martyn. And thank you very much for your in-depth analysis on Industry 4.0. And I think effectively Industry 4.0 does go in hand with automation, and also AI is another big topic at the minute. And I think these new technologies is something that I believe there's definitely going to be a growth when we come out of this lockdown in these new three technology. Well, not necessarily new, but I definitely think there's going to be a growth. There's another question that's just come in from Darren Granger.
This is a personal problem, I think. Darren he's been up all night googling the most technical question he can think of.
Well, let's
to you, Ashley.
Well, Ashley, Darren Granger is one of your clients. We went to visit Darren, didn't we, at High Spec Precision a year ago, probably. And it is a perfect example of automation. We'll go and tell our audience that story in a bit. Let's look at this question then, Ashley. So, will RoboJob offer a solution for gripping shafts that have a large diameter difference between the billet size and the finished machine size?
So what I think typically a lot of product that Darren makes can be is like a big bolt, effectively. So the head is a lot bigger than the body itself. So the stroke of the shaft jaws is about 20 mil. So the difference between going, if you're putting a shaft in at 50 mil and you turn it down to 30 mil, you're okay. But if you're turning it down to sort of 20 mil, 10 mil, then we need to think about gripping capabilities and on what we can do with regards to heads on the robot itself. So that is something which is being developed. To answer Darren's question, so I would say in the coming future, I can get in contact with Darren and answer his question for him. But yes, it certainly is something that we're going to be. It is in development, but because it is a relevant question, and there's a lot of applications out there. Typically what Darren's making as well.
So effectively what Darren's asking is all about the stroke of the grippers. Is that correct?
As I understand it, yes. Yeah.
So increasing that stroke, so you've got you can clamp or hold or manipulate two different diameters with a different range. Is that
yeah? Well, I mean, you can have two grippers effectively, which are two-point grippers, which hold the length of a shaft across the length of it, not on the end with a 3-point gripper. So you've got a 2-point gripper going over the length of the shaft itself. So to have two grippers like that on the robot is not a problem. You can do it with two grippers like this. However, you need to take into account the weight of the heads and the size of the robot and what we're going to try and put it into. So it's about having so very simply with a lot of the billet work that we do with regards to the robots. You'll have two heads, one for your raw material and one for your finished material, because you're not going to be always gripping on the raw material again that you've loaded into the machine. So you have to have a second head to do that with.
So you're looking at for future innovations to make the system and the robo job more flexible to offer or lend itself to a larger range, if I'm correct. Now, let's tell the story about high spec. So correct me if I'm wrong with any of this information, Ashley and Martyn, but we visited High Spec and Darren, and we've done a video there that you can find on the MTD-CNC website. Now, they invested in their first robo job for their CNZ because Darren just didn't have the time to be able to run all of the machines on his own. Since he made that first purchase, he ordered a second robo job within 6 months of the first purchase due to the success of the first robo job for a 5th axis machine. So this is just testament to what automation can do for a company. But since the lockdown as well, he's been winning ventilator work and running 24/7. Have you got any other points to add to that? Is that correct, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, Darren's a great example, and he's very he's quite forward thinking. So he knew the next stage, and to compete and to keep up with the market, he knew what he needed to do, and he's still making investments all around his workshop with not just robotics. So, but the thing for Darren is, I think he saw people leaving. Not for any bad reasons, but it was more of people leaving the company and rehiring new skill set, and to find those guys. Now, Darren was quite skilled himself; he can actually run the machines himself. So it was more about keeping his machines running, and finding the skilled labour was the biggest reason for Darren to invest. And as soon as he saw that, so even down to you start to see you run your machine for another 3 or 4 hours at the end of the day, 3 or 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 however many weeks that you're going to be running that machine of the year is a lot of hours. It's up to additional 50, 60, 70% from that same machine by just running 3, 4, 5 hours additional every day. And that was an instant insight that he saw from the robot loading, unloading the machine.
Excellent story. I mean, Darren is managing director of iSpec Precision, and in my opinion, time is your most precious commodity. And effectively, automation has bought him time in which he can use in a far more beneficial way than loading the machine. Now, let's start going through your product range. Martyn, you started the company with the short bar feeder, the Hydrafeed short bar feeder. Can you tell us the progression and the evolution in the short bar feeder and what solution it will solve for an end user, whether they are looking to buy a bar feeder with a brand new machine or they're looking to retrofit one to a second-hand one?
Okay. So short magazine bar feeds, yes. We supply most of the UK requirement with our bar feeds. We have a variety of them. A few years ago, the fashion was being driven by the fact that it was suggested that machines needed servo-driven bar feeds, so we can offer the UK market servo-driven bar feed. We can offer electro-pneumatic short magazine bar feeds, and they both have their place within our sector. The electro-pneumatic version, I must admit, we expected the sales of that to decline, but because of the robustness and the build quality of it and the simplicity of its use, we have customers now that have upwards of 15 or 20 of our electro-pneumatic bar feeds in our workshop. Moving on from that, where we can now offer a full servo model, it was a point I made earlier, we felt that we needed to be able to offer that servo-assisted bar feed on the more sophisticated machine tools. It doesn't only lend itself to a twin turret machine. However, if a customer's making that kind of investment on a machine, they're going to want a piece of peripheral equipment that's going to complement that. And we think that our MSV range will do. It will measure the bar, it will calculate the components from that bar, it will multiple pushes out. You can use the push rod as a backstop. It's a very, very intelligent piece of equipment. It will store part programs, so if their customers just want to store them under a part number, they can just call it up again, and there is limited manual intervention, which is a very, very cost-effective and yet effective way of automating a turning centre. So we all equally realised that there were different levels within our industry. There are companies that are offering 8 and 10 inch chucking machines that go up to a 65mm bar capacity, single spindle, 2-axis machines that do 3-axis machines that do a wonderful job for a huge, great amount of subcontractors. And we needed to offer a bar feed, again, that was both cost proportionate to the machines. Also, we, these last few years, have developed in-house our multi-feed 65 model, which, as the name suggests, goes up to 65mm bar capacity. Does exactly the same thing as our multi-feed, but that goes up to 80. Then we have the servo models, which are 65, 80, and 110. So we like to think that we have pretty much covered every range of every machine tool turning centre that's available with our short magazine bar feeds. They offer a great, simple way of automating a machine tool. Without one, if you're doing anything more than 10 or 20 parts, you've got to stand in front of it, you've got to open the door, you've got to open the chuck, you've got to pull it out to a stop, you've got to shut the chuck, you've got to shut, etc., etc. And you can only ever run one bar at a time through the headstock. So without a short magazine bar feed, it becomes a very labour-intensive system to manufacture even the simplest of parts. With one, you can simply put it on and you can buy from us whichever one you think is most suitable for your machine tool. And we have skilled staff here to be able to advise. And we will never, ever give false advice. If it's an end user that's coming on, we like to speak to them, we like to look at their machine, we like to see the work that they're doing, and then we can pluck from our portfolio of products the best and most suitable model for them. And it works very well indeed. We have 8 or 9 skilled engineers of our own that deliver and install, and it's all supported here through Milton Keynes. So the parts are all here. It's a good product, and it's a good product range, and I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah, I think that got to state it's a British-made product. You've been manufacturing the Hydrafeed bar feeder in Milton Keynes for many.
Yeah, the multi-feed systems are, yes, they are absolutely
for many years, and it's a very, very popular bar feeder. And like you mentioned earlier, Martyn, I think that the manufacturing of products in the UK, I would imagine, should increase when we come out of lockdown and we get over this current situation. Now, you've also introduced the long bar feeder to your portfolio of products. At the minute, the fixed head lathe with a capacity of up to 100mm, if I'm correct, Martyn. Can you tell us why you've introduced this new product line?
Yes, it's no secret, Hydrafeed have always been keen to have a full-length magazine bar feed range. However, with the full-length magazine bar feed, as you would know, Gio, they're a different beast completely. There's a different set of physics going on if you've got a 75mm, 3 meters of bar hanging out the back of a machine. You can end up with a tail wagging the dog scenario if you're not careful. So it has to be supported properly by a properly built, robust piece of equipment that is well manufactured, and more importantly from us can be supported by the manufacturer, which really meant that we were looking for a European built bar feed. Now there's limited opportunities there, as I'm sure again you know. There's German and there's a couple of Italian manufacturers that manufacture them. Top Automazione approached us a couple of years back with their product range, and they invited myself over to look at their equipment, and it is a remarkable piece of engineering. It really is, and we were very happy to represent it. We've done 2 or 3 installs now, and we unfortunately have a further 4 or 5 stuck in the factory that we can't get out to install. Again, going back to your earlier point, we had an order for another one last week for a company that are looking to continually invest in automation. The reason that we went with Top, apart from the fact that they approached us initially, was the fact that we can offer, again, it's that full range. We can offer 2 metre, 3, 4 or 6 metre, up to 100 mil. They can offer it in floor loading ability, so you can just put the bars in front of it, bundle loading, so the fork truck can come and load it on. It's all there. So we are able to be able to now offer our customers pretty much anything that they want. If they want to run a full length bar, regardless of the diameter, regardless of the quantity, we can supply it. The other main issue for us was the quality of the product and the innovation of it. Traditional long magazine bar feeds need a guide channel set to a minimum range of bars. The Top Automazione one's done. It's all programmed through a very easy to use HMI screen. Bar changeover becomes a matter of a couple of minutes rather than 45 minutes, half an hour or so. And going back to the point that Ashley made earlier, it's all about keeping your spindles moving and high mix, low volume. Again, traditionally long magazine bar feeds were looked at for long run jobs. These ones don't have to be. If you want to run 3 metre bar and you want to change it over 3 or 4 times in a day, you can do, and you can do it. Those 3 or 4 changes can take you at the most 20 minutes. It's only a question of changing a collet, putting the bars on, and away you go. They are very, very good pieces of equipment indeed. We were very disappointed not going to Mac with the bar feed. We know full well that in the post-COVID period, there will be discussions that we will be having with OEM customers that are currently showing interest. I've had emails again this morning from a siding head company that are very interested in discussing with us post the virus episode. And I'm sure that we will then be pushing into sliding head. At the moment, you're quite right, Gio. We want to continue to focus our efforts on fixed head machines. That's where our forte is. All of our engineers have been to Italy to train. We've had people training us over here. We have product here that we can deliver. So we're very, very happy with being able to add that to our portfolio. It gives us short, long robots. The robots have opened the doors for us now where we can load both turning centres and milling centres. So again, going back to our earlier conversation, it's the continual growth of Hydrafeed to become ambassador, if you like, of machine tool automation here in the UK at any level, whether it's a simple 65mm capacity, pneumatically fed short magazine bar feed, up to a full-blown robot with everything else in between. That's where we want to be. We want to be able to service that in our industry with any of our products.
Thanks, Martyn. And in regard to the innovation within the long bar feeders that you're now offering, we've produced a Mac video with yourself where you can see some of the technology on the 5th of May in the Mac 2020 montage, the products that you would have been exhibiting at Mac. So for our viewers, please tune in on the 5th of May. But turning automation seems to be embraced more in the UK. Historically, you know, you'd see sliding heads. You'd never see, shall I say, you'd never see a sliding head without a bar feeder. And most fixed head lathes, I'd say the majority of them have bar feeders. However, Ashley, you know, now you have introduced RoboJob technology. Martyn mentioned the turn assist, but you've also got the mill assist to feed and automate 3-axis and 5th-axis machines. Why historically, has there not been as many of these machine types automated in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it goes back to the historical thing of established automation. So established automation, as you say, turning wise is bar feeds, milling as well can be a pallet loader if you like. So traditionally, people might think that the only way to automate a milling machine would be a pallet loader. But now with the robots and which we're having it, most of what we're doing is workpiece handling. So we're holding the raw material. So there's no preparation to that raw material. There's no loading it into a vice and loading it into a system. You simply put your batch onto the surface, which it tells you where to position the parts, and it will load and unload for you into an automated vice. So historically, no, it's not been seen as an easy solution, perhaps, but now it really is. It's our bread and butter. It's what we're doing all the time. So generally, when I speak to guys as well, they show me the machine, show me what they're doing, what they're making, what is the material, what is it aluminium, is it mild steel, is it stainless, and we discuss points such as tool life. We discuss points such as how do they use it as opposed to just pressing go and putting as many parts on it as possible, and where the benefits come from. So splitting operations perhaps, or if we're able to reduce work in progress, most companies want to do that. But when you look at aluminium, you don't have to worry about your tool life so much, but when you look at your mild steels, you do. So we look at sister tools, we look at probing, and there's many ways that you can get around it with regards to the milling.
Ashley, we've just had a question come in from Chris Fraser. He wants to know, what volumes do you need to automate a 5th axis or 3-axis machine, and how easy are they to install to a second-hand machine? Ashley.
So yeah, our biggest market at the moment is the retrofit market. So we by the end of a week you'll be up and running, because day 1, day 2, and 3 parts of it are mechanical. So we will be bolting the robot to either a position and resin so that it can be met onto the floor into a common position. So if you want to move it, you can. So they're mobile as well if you ever need to move it between machines and to other machines. But within a week you'll be installed. But batch sizes, I wouldn't be too concerned if you've got your 10s, 20s, 30s and 40s, because it might be that they're only 5 or 10 minute cycle time, but it's still those 10, 15, 5-minute cycle times. And especially if you're 5-axis, hopefully your cycle times are going to be a touch longer, because you're hitting multiple faces, you're getting more out of that part. So when we sit down with guys and we look at batch sizes and we say, right, well, maybe you've got a batch of 50 parts of those, there are 20-minute cycle time each. When you actually put that down on a piece of paper and say, well, 20 minutes over 50 parts is X amount of hours, and how quickly is that going through the workshop currently? So it might take you, I don't know, just for example, not that part, but it might take 2 weeks for a certain component to go through a workshop. Now, when you've automated that, you'll probably find that will get through the workshop within a couple of days.
We're seeing that.
Batch sizes can be as small as your 5s, 10s, 15s, 20s. But if you get down to your 1s and 2s, and you're looking at multiple programs for a 1-off, and a 2-off, then a 1, then a 3, then a 1, then a 2, possibly you might want to look at different options with regards to pallet loaders, things like that. But if you're looking at batches of 10s, 15s, that's our ball game. So give us a shout. I mean, the most common thing that we see for subcontractors are they're making either a family of parts for a particular customer, or they're making variants of a family of parts, or they're making common parts very regular. So they know that parts A, B, and C will always be coming in months 1 and 2. Parts C, D, and E will be there for months 2 and 3. So planning becomes a lot easier behind that as well, because you're you're getting a predictable output from the machine. So, barring any breakdowns or issues on that side of things, but yeah, it's the batch sizes, going back to the question, can be very low if they need
No,
to be.
you've answered it very thoroughly, Ashley. And I was going to actually mention about one-offs, two-offs. They can be palletized, can't they? So you can do all of your setting of that part off the machine and use a 0-point location system on the machine, whether it's a 5th axis or a 3-axis. Actually, we've had another question come in now. I don't know who wants to take this one. It maybe be more beneficial for the milling area, but why is it so important to start automating inspection as well?
It completes the process. In particular, it's everything in one, then, isn't it? Your part goes in, gets machine inspected and out. So we're doing two at the moment, where we're including a shop floor probing machine, where it sounds difficult to interface, but it's not. Fundamentally, the robot doesn't need to know the dimensions of your machined part. Only the machine tool does. So when you're doing machine updates, offsets, and things that you've done already from the inspection side of things, the robot doesn't need to be involved with that. Now, that's established and already formed through the likes of many metrology companies. They're already very well versed at updating offsets on machines. It's very common, and almost that missing piece to the puzzle is that auto loading. So now we're able to say, right, we're going to inspect 1 in 5, or we're going to inspect 100%. You can load and unload that machine, load and unload either a fixture in a CMM or a shop floor probing application machine, where we're able to put onto a chute, for example, and the chute comes out ready, receives a part, chute goes underneath to the inspection area, or you get like your gantry style CMM. So including the inspection just really completes that puzzle. Does that make sense? I mean,
absolutely. I think that from a technical aspect, I think we've covered your products quite intensively. We haven't even had the time really to touch upon the rotor wrap, but that's another automated solution that you offer at Hydrafeed. So if you've been watching this show, please don't hesitate to contact Hydrafeed directly to ask them even more questions about the products that they offer, the return on investments that your company could achieve from them products, and the kind of applications that they will lend themselves to. Now, we're going to end this show with your point that you made earlier, globalisation, Martyn. We've had many conversations in the past about remaining competitive globally and why automation was the key to remain competitive globally. Now, you mentioned earlier on in this show about globalisation, and now this could change. Can you explain this, Martyn, and why you think that it will change?
We're getting into politics here, Gio, aren't we? I barely know enough around machine tools, let alone politics. Why do I think? I can see that there are so many factors. Okay, so let's go back to the original point. The UK. The UK has built its greatness on the back of being a manufacturing country. And I truly believe that the politicians and all of those associated with what's going on in the world now will hopefully have some increased appreciation of our sector. I also believe that there will have to be, as I said earlier, a review of strategic industries and their supply chain to the UK, so that we aren't left vulnerable in this way again, whether or not it's medical or shipping or military or whatever it may be. And I do believe that there will be some level of refocusing on self-sufficiency. I also think that globalization will, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because we, Hydrafeed, even little old Hydrafeed, are a global company. We deal with Italy, USA. I have business interests in Taiwan. we are a global company, and it's good, and it's we've been able to plot those out and offer good equipment into the UK. However, I think with what's going on in the world at the moment and the financial impact that it will have on everyone's economy throughout the world, that there will be a refocusing on their own self-sufficiency, and it could be that some of the, I'm not saying this, I believe this will happen, but there's a possibility that certain Schengen agreements won't be reopened. Maybe some of those border controls that are in place now will remain in place. Certainly going forward in the next year or two, where we are now free to travel the world wherever we want to travel, I think that there will need to be some kind of control over whether or not you've had this virus or whether or not you've been inoculated against it. And for all of those factors, I think that globalisation will still remain, but I do believe that there will be care taken over those critical supply chains to the UK, and the same will happen to other countries. I mean, we're already seeing there being some level of reluctance in the European Union for the big players like Germany to help bail out countries such as your own home country, that's been hit so badly by it. Let's be honest, Italy is a wonderful country, one of my favourite in the world to visit, but its finances perhaps aren't as healthy as Germany's are. And are Germany going to be a little bit reluctant to help bail out Italy? One doesn't know. We don't know what's going to be at the end of all of this. And I think because of all of those factors, there will be a level of, let's look at our home borders before we start thinking about leaving ourselves open. And I'm not saying that in a xenophobic way at all. I love travel, welcome anybody here, but I do think that globalization will be reviewed in a much stronger and stricter way. And we all know a few years ago, everybody rushed to China because it was a huge, great reservoir of cheap labor. Are we paying the price for some of that now by our supply chains being weakened? I don't know.
Some good points there, Martyn, for sure. I believe, in my opinion, that the service sector is going to take a massive hit, and it's going to take a long time to recover. And subsequently, I think that manufacturing and becoming the masters of our own destiny in the UK would be a good way to compensate for that loss of income to the country. And I think it's something that's very, very important indeed. Ashley, you're again an advocate of automation and the reasons why we should and still should automate to remain competitive globally. This will still be quite relevant because, if we're not buying as many products from China or these countries where we can buy them at a lesser cost, and we were buying them from the UK because they were manufactured in the UK, we'd want to still keep the cost of them products as low as possible, albeit, they'll be obviously better quality because they're manufactured in the UK. But nevertheless, when you look at your TVs and the prices that you can buy some of this technology from, we want to manufacture in the UK, but we need to still be able to buy them products at an affordable cost. So automation surely is still the key.
Definitely. And I think you've answered your question as well. I think there as well to say one of the only ways that we can compete and remain competitive is to automate. We aren't in the automation rankings, if you like, globally. We're not high up there whatsoever in the UK. We're a very good engineering company and we're passionate about it. We're some fantastic people in our industry that are passionate and like I am, like Martyn is, like you are, and we're eager to get on with it. We want this to be a bigger part of the GDP. Do you know what I mean? It should be. We're ready for it, and the ways that we can do that has to include automation. We won't be able to compete without it.
It's been absolutely brilliant to have you guys on board. The time has definitely ran away with us. I could definitely talk for another hour at least. I hope that the viewers that have took the time to watch this show have enjoyed it. If they've got any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact Hydrafeed UK direct. The playing field has certainly changed around the world in all sectors, and we've obviously got to change with that. But something for certain is that automation, AI, and all the related products around that are definitely going to be more important than they've ever been. Thank you, Martyn and Ashley, for joining us on MTD Question Time Live today. Next week, we'll have Solid Cam that are joining us. But until then, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.